Less than a year after he bought him, Mark Walter says, nah, you can have the Lakers. The Lakers got sold. What is going on? We have so much to talk about on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
What's up, everybody? It is August 13th, 2026, and welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night, where we get into the latest and greatest from around the association every single day, every single night. Your favorite Thursday duo is back. I'm Tony East of Locked On Pacers. He's Ryan Blackburn of Locked On Nuggets, and we're perfect for today because we're talking about the NBA Cup groups, scheduled games today, and those games will conclude in Indianapolis at Hinkle Fieldhouse, where I am. We're going to talk about Russell Westbrook, kind of surprise retirement announcement, legendary career for us, an MVP, and Ryan got to cover him with the Nuggets. So boy, oh boy, do we have some local expertise on all that matters today. We have no local expertise, and yet a lot to talk about today's leading topic, though. Wow, probably the most shocking team sale I can remember in my time covering the league. This will be my 10th season doing so. A lot of the other ones that have happened before have been like a little leak that it could be coming out of nowhere. The Los Angeles Lakers, who Mark Walter bought last year and put in a new plan for Genie Bus to run the show for the next 5 years. Bob Iger comes in. Josh Kushner comes in. They're buying the Lakers for a $12.5 billion valuation. They're just buying Walter's shares, so it's not actually going to be that much money, but that's not important. Ryan, this is shocking stuff.
Yeah, it's a very weird, out of left field thing, and obviously Mark Walter's going through a lot of things, a lot of things off the court that he's trying to navigate on his own personal ownership side. And I remember when Genie Bus and the Bus family sold the Lakers initially to Mark Walter. It was such a big deal, and it was highlighted as, okay, you've got this new, like maybe not necessarily perfect owner by any stretch of the word, but like a $10 billion valuation that they bought it for, and effectively was saying, you know what? We're going to take the Lakers into this next era, and with Luka Dončić getting traded there and LeBron James kind of on his way out and ultimately did exit this offseason, it felt like the start of something new for the Los Angeles Lakers. And now a new era built around all the moves that they made in this past offseason, kind of now bookended by some weird stuff with this ownership group. And you get Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, and you get Joshua Kushner, who has his own personal tales.
It's so fascinating because on one hand, a lot of the reporting makes this seem just like super straightforward, right? Yeah. Here's Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. They're really interested in the Vegas expansion team. Here's how much that's going to cost just in fees. Then you get to own the team. But there's no branding. It's new. It's a different experience. You got to establish everything. You're going to have to pay more for that all to work out. Or option B, which comes out of kind of nowhere, you can pay more, but just freaking buy the Lakers and have that brand and have the brand basically of the NBA. Okay, great. I totally understand how those two billionaires or people who could raise enough capital to afford that landed on that conclusion. And then you look over and here's Mark Walter, who owns the Dodgers and owns the Sparks and has a ton of money also and runs all these companies and owns the Lakers. And it's like, why would he want to sell? It's like, oh, because he's being investigated by the FBI and like apparently just had electronics raided like last month. And right now, if you Google his name, just because of this sale, it talks all about like loans he's trying to get money to cover because of this investigation. Okay, yeah, I get why he'd sell something that's worth billions of dollars. Like if I follow all this reporting, I'm like, yeah, I see how this happened. And yet, something this expensive and something this shocking happening in about a week. I mean, Ramona Shelburne reported that these discussions started on Sunday. The Athletic reported last Friday. So whatever, very recently.
Yeah.
Something about that doesn't pass the smell test, even if all the other inputs make a ton of sense and seem so obvious. It's just completely crazy that this happened and that he sold it for $2.5 billion more than he bought it for a year ago. It's just all so wild to me.
And not to mention, like I was just going to say, a year ago, like how often have we ever had this happen before, where an owner like purchases a stake in a team and basically turns it around and flips it the next year? This is just not the stability that I can imagine that the NBA was going for when they're trying to steward one of the premier franchises in the NBA, the one that makes them the most money, almost certainly. So I got to imagine that this is shocking to a lot of people, but I wonder what Adam Silver would have to say about this situation. I wonder what the rest of the owners would have to say about the situation, just how this sort of came to be as quickly as it did. Do you think that certainly the owners should probably hold on to a team for more than a year? Do you think that there should be a longer process in terms of making sure that a certain owner or a certain person is vetted and right for the position? Because there is a certain responsibility to being a sports owner that goes just beyond holding a commodity. That's not what it is. This is supposed to be like people's like fandom, livelihood, and things like that.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where there's so few people who can afford the teams. I always think that they're never going to vote no, because like this still has to be approved to the extent that that's even like you and I have been covering the league for a while. Like that's never even been close to a thing. But I do remember this has always stuck with me as something that I never even thought about. That's very interesting is when Pablo Torre was reporting on Robert Parra, the owner of the Grizzlies, and all the things he had going on with his company and overseas, war and things like that. One of the mentions in that was that though Robert Parra couldn't move the Grizzlies somewhere else within a certain amount of time as part of his agreement to purchase the Grizzlies. Maybe this wasn't in writing, this was just informal, but part of the suggested reason for that was that other owners don't like it if another rich person comes in, buys a team, and moves them immediately, and the valuation of that team goes way up, because then that new person just made money on the work of the rest of the owners in the league that they've built, which sounds ridiculous, but does actually make sense, because in theory, like if you own a different team and you're like, oh, I could just sell my team, buy the Grizzlies, move them, and make more money, you would just do that. They don't want that. That's ridiculous. So I do understand that. And that's why it's so weird to see that this is Mark Walter buying the Lakers and then selling them for $2.5 billion more in 12 months later, right? It's like, wait a minute. That's kind of exactly what like you don't want to have be the case. And you're right that the core value of this is like a team has branding, a new owner brings in different ideals. I remember reading all this reporting about how Mark Walter has this certain style with the Dodgers of like how they oversee scout and where they invest in front office resources. And wow, those things are going to be so great for the Lakers. And like their foothold lasted no time, right? What's going to be different now? What do fans need to expect? It's really, and LeBron's gone. Like there's a lot to keep up with as a fan. It's not as fun. It's obviously great if your owners spend a bunch of money, but they don't know what's going to happen with that either, right? It's all confusing money mess that, again, even if I can follow all these obvious reporting paths, still I'm like, the smell test is so off on this.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of owners Josh Kushner and Bob Iger are going to be. I'll be really curious to see what that turns into and what they have to say about how this process came to be and how they were approached on this, and if there's any sort of
Clippers fan Bob Iger has a lot to answer, Ryan.
Yeah, there's plenty there that I'm sure we could get into, but no, it'll be fascinating. Maybe there's some integration into the Disney movie system and to the actual ESPN logistics, because that's actually the other thing is like Disney owns ESPN and runs ESPN, and that's a major television partner for the league. And so not that we were all used to seeing the Lakers on national TV over and over and over again, but I wonder if this is another boost in that general direction of like, hey, wow, it's weird. The Lakers are on ESPN again this week.
And Kushner used to own part of the Grizzlies, and I think he currently, but obviously not anymore, owns part of the Heat, right? So that's going to have to change. If you want more info on this, by the way, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about or regurgitating, Kobe Price just got Iger on the phone on Wednesday for the California Post. Really impressive work. A lot of his story was a part of this. Good reporting from Ramona Shelburne this morning and in The Athletic. I feel like, Ryan, you and I are going to be the first guys who just constantly are just going to cite our sources every week. So here's what I'll say. Right now, all the reporting, I'm like satisfied by the early reporting, but like I'm really ready for a lot more on where this is going. And maybe the answer is just like this dude's really just under FBI investigation and that's it. But it's really, really fascinating. Fascinating also the career of number 0, of recently number 18 for the Kings for some reason, one Russell Westbrook, who announced his retirement with an awesome video on Wednesday. We will celebrate the career of Russell Westbrook coming up next here on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, everybody, let me talk to you guys about the great people over at FanDuel. If you're a baseball fan, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with their daily dingers. It's easy to play. You just make your free pick on who you think will hit a home run in the game. And if you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with every single day's games, whether you're following your favorite team or you're keeping an eye on matchups or a pitcher or a batter, like whatever. Every game has someone capable of going deep. Now you get the chance to make your prediction before the first pitch, and there's so many ways to get involved that makes it fun, because sometimes there's a hitter on a hot streak. You want to jump in and try to be involved in that. Sometimes there's a favorable pitching matchup, a lefty, a righty, whatever. Sometimes you're in a ballpark that has like a 301-foot foul line for some reason and gives up more home runs. That's the first things you can check before making your Daily Dingers pick, and you can do it every day. So are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer play and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of the MLB. And we are back here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Very obviously, your second listen should be Locked On Lakers. They will have all the local angles of this, and they're very used to covering ownership changes because they just did all this stuff last year. So I'm looking forward to the Kamenetskis. They will certainly be my first listen tomorrow. Honestly, their episode might be out already, so perfect for editing this. Ryan, amazing that on August 12th, this was not the lead story of the day, because this is insane. Former MVP retiring after an awesome career. And the end was weird, and everybody was kind of clowning him. He averaged 15, 5, and 7 in his final season for the Sacramento Kings, going out in the way that only he could go out. Russell Westbrook, an MVP, a finalist, a 2-time scoring champ, and 3-time assist champ. And that to do it in any 2 stats at all is unbelievable. An absolutely hellacious player in his prime with the Thunder, was still very good for the likes of the Rockets and the Wizards, and I guess had a nice stint with the Lakers statistically, but it went horribly for the team. But what an absolutely awesome career Russell Westbrook had. You got to cover him in Denver. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise. And when you heard the Shams Charania report after that he was like, you know what, got offers from a couple of different teams, but I want to go out on my own terms. It's potentially time. And he had to think about it. You take it into August and you wonder, okay, what's this going to look like? And I'm sure he felt like he was probably good well before this point. But the video that they released, Michael B. Jordan narrating, which was super cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
I mean, it's unapologetically Russell Westbrook. I'll say that he has always been a personality that has rubbed some people the wrong way, but is unapologetic in how passionate he is and what he stands for and the kind of person that he wants to be and the kind of teammate that he wants to be. Has a style that is not necessarily like everybody's favorite, but it was his style, and it was his style of play that he brought with him for all 18 years of his career. And he adjusted at various points. There were some destinations that, he had to figure out how to navigate certain things. He had to figure out what he was going to do when he joined James Harden in the Rockets. He had to figure out what he was going to do when he was joining Bradley Beal and the Washington Wizards. That Wizard season, by the way, insane numbers. Just you go back and look at some of those stat lines that he's putting up. But 2 things I will talk about from Russell Westbrook from a Nuggets perspective. The first was the year he won MVP, game 80 of the season. He came to Denver and had his 42nd triple-double. He passed the ball to Samaj Christone, I believe, in the right corner for his 10th assist of the game, or certainly whatever it was that was going to solidify a triple-double average on the season. And he was just like, I think that was just a 10th assist. but it was the record-breaking day, and then he had 50 on top of it, a 50-point triple-double, and hit a game winner over Jamal Murray from like 32 feet out. It was unbelievable.
Left wing. I remember that shot perfectly. Yeah.
Gosh, it's just like, and as a Nuggets fan at the time, it was like I run over by a car, because like he's a division rival who was just torturing Denver for years and years and years, and like that was such a crazy moment. And then when he was with the Nuggets, this not this year but the year before, helped them win a playoff series, came back after basically like straining or tearing tendons in his finger, ligaments in his finger, and struggled to shoot at times, but was just so impactful still, despite the fact that he had this major injury that he was struggling to deal with. And like helped Denver win a game 7 and absolutely dunked all over the Clippers. And he had a whole bunch of steals and assists and playmaking, and like was just the emotional force that he always has been. Denver doesn't get out of that series unless they have Russell Westbrook. And like he has cultivated this reputation for being difficult to interview. I didn't find him difficult to interview while he was in Denver. Maybe he mellowed out just a little bit. Maybe it wasn't like the same experience, but you just show him respect and you try to like approach things, not on his level, but just like showing that he understands the game better than you do and just trying to learn from him. And that's all you really need. And like, it's all you have to do in order to get really great interactive content from Russell Westbrook on the interview side. So I enjoyed my time covering him. It was volatile. It was polarizing. There's no question that like there were problems sometimes when he was on the Nuggets, but overall it was a positive experience for the Nuggets, positive experience for Russ. And I'm glad that he was on the team.
You're roughly my age, so we can like roughly reminisce on the same timeline of Russ's career ascent. But I remember like pockets of like, first it was he's in this grouping of like athletic guards of like Derrick Rose, Westbrook, John Wall, a couple other guys, obviously, but like, you know, that early 2010s, mid 2010s, whatever kind of guy. And he was considered very often the best of those players. Rose had won MVP earlier in that. And then the Thunder make the finals. And it's like, wow, this Westbrook kid's fantastic. And then he kept getting better to the point that it was like him and Steph, you know, were like the conversation, and Chris Paul at the time of like, those were the guards, and Kyrie and Wall remained good for a while before he got hurt. And then Russ just had all this crap, like with like you're talking about with media stuff, and his contract was too big. And so all the time people thought he was bad, but it's just that he was overpaid. So we got all these like junky trades. He ended up on some weird teams. And it just kind of made that latter part of his career kind of like not forgettable, but just weird after being in OKC for a decade and being awesome and being so spectacular with the Rockets. Can I read you his stats? Granted, this is 5 games. In the 2016-17 playoffs, 5 games, Russell Westbrook averaged 37.4 points, 11.6 rebounds, 10.8 assists, and 2.4 steals per game. Like crazy. This dude did everything for these teams for a long time, and those teams were not spectacular, but like he really was. There's a reason he won MVP in a hotly debated year, by the way. There were a lot of good players that year, and was able to drag some of these, like he dragged the freaking Wizards to the playoffs. They won a game that year. He averaged a triple-double for that team in the postseason. Just like a one-of-one career for so many reasons. It was an absolute delight to watch him play, especially at his apex. And so even if the end was weird, I loved what the prime of it was. It's a bummer that Steph and the Warriors were in his conference. I mean, that basically made it impossible for anything post the KD Harden teams to make any sort of deep run. And the Nuggets were his last chance. It didn't. He obviously played a part in them losing the next series, the one after the one you talked about. So he never got the ring, but an awesome player and an awesome career. Salute, sir. Awesome
player, super impactful, both on and off the courts. And like that's the part of Russ that I think a lot of people, especially in the LA area, will always appreciate, is just who he has been in terms of the people that he has helped kind of bring along with him. And that's an important piece of this, that like because he's so polarizing and so like like there's a lot of fans and a lot of like people around the league that are like, ooh, Russell Westbrook. But like everybody that's been in his corner and been on his team and understood what he's about, they speak glowingly about him, and deservedly so. I'm thankful for the time covering him and just kind of learning how that experience would be, and just being able to appreciate that. I wish, like, I actually think he would have been a really good fit in Denver for a while. And just the style of play that he had in terms of being as aggressive as he was downhill, taking attention off of Jokic, it would have been very weird. It would have been difficult, but I do think that those guys, they fit so well together in terms of, like, Jokic knew exactly what he was getting from Russ, and Russ knew exactly what he was getting from Jokic, and they fit really well together and had several, like they had multiple times where they had triple doubles in the same game. So it was a really interesting experience. And I think about that, and I will think about that period with the Nuggets for a while, but Russell Westbrook, congrats on an incredible career.
And I can't believe we didn't mention it. I mean, I guess you kind of did when you mentioned the game, but the MVP season just remade the perception of the triple-double, and that's because he did it so easily. And I don't mean that to diminish it. I mean the opposite. He was so good at doing this thing that was previously thought to be ridiculous that it's actually like changed the entire perspective of that as an accomplishment, which is everything about how impressive he was. Great career, 18 years, and wore number 18 very strangely in his final season. After a few years dabbling with number 4 for some reason, he will always be number 0 in my head and my heart. Congratulations to Russell Westbrook, who will not be playing this season, and who will be all 30 teams, the NBA Cup and President's Day and Martin Luther King Day. Games scheduled came out on Wednesday. Do we have any thoughts on those things? And the new final product of the Cup, we'll talk about that to close out today's Locked On NBA Game Night. We are back here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Locked On Thunder has to be your second listen. That is easily has to have a full show dedicated to Russell Westbrook. Perhaps other shows will as well, but the Thunder one will be the one. Sam Presti put out a long statement I encourage everybody to read about Westbrook because, of course, you think about his career, you think about the Thunder. The Emirates NBA Cup. Yes, I'm using the sponsor to be facetious. The schedule is out. It weirdly says subject to change on the graphic that the NBA sent out to us. It's not going to change. I love the Cup. I'm so excited for this. They're playing the finals in Indy this year, which is very exciting. I don't think anybody specifically cares about the specific days and times of the games and what networks that they're on, but
you don't want to go through the entire schedule and lay out all of the dates for people.
No, I do not. But I would actually like to highlight that because the schedule's out and people can now see this very easily. Specifically, the group that the team you covers in and the team I covers in are both just ridiculous in how hard they are. And this is what makes the Cup so fun. East Group B features the Pacers. And the way this works is the conferences are divided up by your records last year. And so the top 3 teams are in one group. The next 3 teams are the next. So there's 5 groups. And so one team from each group is assigned to every like pod of a conference. And so East Group B, the Pacers are the team from the bottom 3 teams from the conference last year. They're clearly good. Miami is the middle team. They now have Giannis. Philadelphia is the bottom middle team. They have LeBron. So East Group B is Knicks, Sixers, Pacers, Cavs, Heat in the same group. It's absurd. The Pacers might be the worst team in that group. The Heat might be the worst team in that group. Who knows? You cover the Nuggets. Similar craziness that the bad team from their group is the Jazz, who are going to be much better this year. And so that group is the Nuggets, who are quite good and made the playoffs last year. The Rockets, same thing. The Suns made the playoffs last year. The Mavs are trying this year because they don't really have their pick. And the Jazz, who hope to be good this year. That is what the Cup's all about. The best groups are so fun. It sucks that like one loss is very damaging in this format, but I'm so excited, and looking at the schedule just gets me hyped because I know it's still gimmicky to some people, even 3 years in. The Knicks validated it last year by winning it and then winning the actual championship. But the Cup is fun, and I love these really, really hard groups. They're so much fun to cover.
Yeah, and obviously you had Knicks Spurs in the NBA Cup last year, and that ultimately became the NBA Finals. So it does mean something in some of these things. I don't know how much it means, or if that's just entirely random, but still cool to see. And I think the NBA is probably just like salivating at the opportunity to promote that. You know that Adam Silver is going to drop that line at some point.
Yeah,
yeah, I will say. The thing I think about with the Nuggets last year, they lost their first cup game on Halloween. It was a random road game in Portland. It was first time that they had it, and Tumani Kamara reaches around Jokic and somehow gets a jump ball from behind him while they're both standing together. And it can get very random, and that first game matters so much in terms of setting the tone, because like you said, not just every game matters. The first game matters. It honestly knocks out half of the teams in the league in terms of whether they're going to make it or not, because it's so rare to be able to go 3-1 and actually make it. You got to go 4-0 in order to feel like you're guaranteed, because the 3-1, there's going to be a team that wins by more points than you. So I do think that is one. But yeah, you mentioned Knicks, Cavs, Sixers, Heat, Pacers, ridiculous group. West Group A, I wouldn't say it's that ridiculous if I'm being honest. Nuggets, Rockets, Suns, Dallas, and then Utah. It is certainly elevated by Utah being a team that tries, but if I'm being honest, like the tanking rules this year are preventing teams from being any interested at all in not trying at any point of the season.
That's not true. Because the Nets and the Bucks and the Mavs and the Clippers don't have their picks, so they don't care if they're in the relegation zone. Who cares?
Fair, but then they also don't care about tanking. They can play their guys all the way through, like the Pelicans did last year.
This is great. I actually want to have this conversation because that is true. Like, I don't think March basketball is going to suck this year. And to be clear, I like the new lottery rules. I actually like them. I know that's unpopular.
Me too.
But here's the thing: the Pelicans. I'm going to use the Pelicans as my example. I always do. Last year, the Pelicans did not have their pick. They very famously traded it for Derek Queen. Even without their pick, once they get eliminated, they're still incentivized to shut down their veterans and not let them get hurt. And they're still incentivized to play their young guys and like learn what they have and see if they can get better. So yeah, the draft pick is obviously very incentivizing to everybody, but even without that, teams are still going to do that once they're eliminated. Like, it still is in their best interest to stay out of the relegation zone first and foremost, but they're still going to be doing that to some level.
Probably so. And maybe the time period for when that starts is like March 15th as opposed to February 1st, like it had been. So 100%. It's like that's basically what was happening with the Utah Jazz last year. Was they're like, oh man, these guys are a little stressed out during this February 1st game.
I think the NBA's biggest fear is this, like, the Nets and Bucks don't care to such a crazy extent that there's not even really a battle to stay out of the relegation zone. Right, that it sets itself so easily. The final NBA Cup thing to note this year is they changed it. So correct me if I'm wrong on this. The semifinals are also now in market, correct? So in the first 3 years of the competition, the semifinals and the title game were in Vegas. This year, the quarterfinals are in market. So the top seeds from the groups will host the bottom seeds from the groups in each conference. Then the semifinals will be in markets as well. And then the championship game, the new thing the league is doing is they announced last year, maybe they leaked it a little bit, that they were going to have it in college arenas as a way to like connect the college game to the pro game. And I don't know about you, Ryan. I assumed Cameron Indoor, Allen Fieldhouse, legendary big programs. And the league says Hinkle Fieldhouse, Butler University, Indianapolis, Indiana. If you don't know Hinkle Fieldhouse, it is awesome. It's really cool. It is historic. It's a really great venue. It is a D1 Big East school. But I don't think that's what people expected. So that will be cool. I'll get to go even if the Pacers don't make it. So that's fun. That's different. I don't know if they're going to do it there forever or if they're going to aim higher in future years, but that's very cool. That's fun.
What would be the most interesting team or matchups to face off at Hinkle Fieldhouse for the winner of the NBA Cup championship?
Lakers Sixers?
I kind of think you're right.
Clippers Raptors?
We're going back to our roots.
I'm just going to tip towards the fun off-season moves, right? Did anything else go crazy, like intra-conference? Was it just LeBron and Kawhi?
I mean, the fact that Giannis stayed East was a big deal. But like that was obviously not intra-conference. But I think Toronto Toronto versus the Clippers, where neither of those teams have Kawhi Leonard available, would be pretty funny. Although that probably gets solved at some point. But no, it'll be interesting to see which of these teams. I obviously will have plenty of previews for the NBA Cup as things approach, and I'm sure as a game night crew, we will do some sort of West East groups A through C preview and prediction on how this is going to go. But I think I'm gonna put out my claim right now. OKC gets back there. They get back to that matchup, and I think we will see. It's not going to be a team from East B because that's going to be a tough matchup. We'll see the Detroit Pistons. They will make it, and so it'll be OKC versus Detroit.
I was about to also call the Pistons, so I won't because you just did. So I will call Wolves 76ers as mine.
Hey, look at that.
As mine. And I'll look, people laugh at this event. Pacers 2024 finalists made the conference finals. Thunder 2025 finalists literally lost the championship game of that, but won the title. And then last year, the finalists literally were the finals. Like, clearly there is some at least staying power of talent in a single elimination tournament. It's very fun. I love the cup. I know not everybody does, and I'm going to shove it down everybody's throats, dang it. So I'm glad we get to talk about it. The real schedule comes out tomorrow. They'll talk about that as they do here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Thank you all so much for listening every single day, every single night right here on this feed. We'll be back next week with more NBA. Till then, everybody have a wonderful week.